The saga of making my engine temperatures run a little bit cooler on my daily E46 M3 continues. Last time we did the radiator and the oil cooler, and today we're upgrading the fan into an electric fan. Getting rid of the clutch fan completely. The tech is too old. We've got to upgrade it to a little bit more modernization, you know what I'm saying? So, welcome back to Yev's Builds, dude. So what we have here is a 16-inch SPAL fan. It's a puller. It's going to be mounted towards the radiator, and it's going to be pulling it towards the engine, right? So where my hand is right now, that's where it's going to be pulling the air towards, so towards the engine bay, of course. We have a bunch of wiring that we may or may not use. My boy Daniel is going to help me out with all this. I have a manual override switch button right here that we may or may not install today, but we may use it later on just in case something goes off and it doesn't properly turn on or turn off you know what I mean? So I'll just manually be able to switch it on and off inside from the interior. It's going to make it so much nicer. These brackets I got from Condor Speed, they're specifically made for the 16-inch SPAL fan, hooking up to the radiator of the E46 M3. I'm not too good with wiring, so that's why my boy Daniel is going to be helping me out with that. Alright, clearly first things first, we gotta remove all this plastic material, right? So just start removing. If you're doing this job, I'm pretty sure you know what you're doing. So the shroud itself contains 4 Torx screws, 1 in each corner. On the bottom, however, I do not have Torx screws because I have a different radiator and it came with supplied bolts and whatnot. So we are gonna remove all this. This is very important. We're still gonna have to be using this. We're gonna have to find a place to mount it later on, but that's for another time. This piece I'm actually gonna cut off and remove because, well, honestly, do not wanna be draining my coolant right now, so I'm just gonna cut it off. I don't need it anyway. This is the passenger side. I still have the Torx here. This side, however, and both of the bottom screws are now 10 mils for me. You are still gonna have the Torx screws. And the easiest way to remove the actual clutch fan without having any special tools
is to just make what you have work.
Exactly.
Buying stuff is a waste of money.
Yeah. You take a giant 1 1/4 inch open end wrench, a giant flathead, jam it up on there against the nut in the water pump itself, and you twist clockwise. Because this is righty-loosey, lefty-tighty, dude.
But of course, you know, if you don't have a 1 1/4 inch wrench, you're gonna have to buy that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the irony in special tools, right? Once you crack that nut off, you just spin it, be careful not to damage your radiator. Boom. That is removed. And now you pull it out together with your shroud. Or not, you can do it visually.
Dangerous Dan, or...
Boom! Don't need no special tools, baby. To make this job a little easier, you gotta remove the front bumper. It's not too hard, just a bunch of 8 mils and Phillips screws on all the sides and underneath the car. Do it. These 3 holes on each corner are gonna have 3 13mm nuts on each side. Really simple. I'm just gonna remove it just a little bit, just so I have access to remove all this right here. And then this whole shroud piece right here is gonna be on 4 clips. And with this bumper support, you're gonna have way more access to the actual auxiliary fan that we're gonna be deleting for this job. And then the auxiliary fan is quite simple. There's gonna be 4 13mm nuts, 2 on each side, and that removes fairly easy. Boom. But now we're meeting up with this module, which we're gonna actually use to mount the new fan and connect the new fan to. You'll see in a sec. What I'm gonna do with this little guy is actually remove the fan itself. I'm gonna keep the module. I'm gonna keep this entire bracket because I don't wanna mount this module anywhere else. Looks like it's 3 T25 Torx screws. We're gonna unscrew it. We're gonna cut these wires right about here, right somewhere in the middle, and we're gonna go from there. And boom, snip the wires right there. This little boy slides right out, and we can still use this factory bracket to mount this whole entire thing. Maybe we'll even just cut this off so, you know, more air circulation, more airflow. Never mind, screw it. I took it off the bracket, and we're just gonna use some self-tappers to mount it somewhere on that bracket, because that bracket is pretty restrictive for airflow, so that's gonna be the best way out about it. So if you're unaware, this factory module, from what I understand, it controls when the auxiliary fan turns on. So at a certain engine temperature, this thing kicks off and it lets the auxiliary fan know when to turn off. And instead of adding an additional sensor anywhere on the radiator and whatnot, I'm just gonna implement this hot wired right in. Probably gonna need a fuse or a relay or something, and do that with factory mods almost, you know? It's gonna be nice. All right, Daniel, so what are we doing here?
So to make this relay work, right here, if you were to pop this open, the numbers are back here. Follow this diagram here. So 30 and 87, this guy here, this is the 12 volt battery that you're gonna fuse, and then this is going to the fan, positive. In order to get these two to connect, you're gonna have to connect these two to this module here. So what we're gonna do is, this is ground, this is positive. What we're gonna do is use this module to trigger this relay and get 12 volts straight from the battery. So the way we're gonna do that, this guy is ground. So that's gonna connect to this one right here. This one, ignition, or 12 volts, you need just power. So this is gonna connect to this gray one right here. This is 12 volt power. Whenever this reaches a certain temperature, this sends out the signal, power ground, boom. That will trigger these two to go to the coil inside, and it will connect these two so that the fan will kick on.
Nice.
Easy peasy.
Lemon squeezy, baby. And this kit you can buy off Amazon straight up. I mean, I bought this kit separately from the fan.
Also, if you wanted to, this kit comes with a thermal switch here. If you didn't want to go this route, you wanted to just put this straight into wherever you have coolant, radiator, thermostat housing, or whatever, you can tap this in, put this in. Once this reaches 195 degrees or so, or 200, whichever one you choose, they come in all sorts of different varieties. This is your ground. So once this expands internally, grounds it internally, and then it'll trigger this one right here for your relay. And then I'll click inside, these two will go bang, and then everything will work. So.
Nice. Just like that, both the relay and the factory module are mounted. Don't mind those two holes, it was a little screw up of mine, but we're good, solid. So now before we connect the power cable and the cable that goes directly to the fan, to that connector right there, we need to splice in that fuse. Daniel put in a 30 amp fuse, and we're gonna splice it direct line into this power one. Cut it down the middle, solder the two ends together, continue it on, and it has to be connected to a power source constantly. We're gonna just hook it up to that, put a little eye socket on there, and that will be done. Well, and after all, these brackets from Condor didn't really work. They weren't exactly precise, but we managed. We just drilled some extra holes and we mounted it, and it's all looking good and flush. Everything's all connected and everything. Wiring job's looking real nice and tidy. That's that fuse, the 30 amp fuse. We routed it all the way down, made it all clean, all the way to the battery. It's looking fresh and good. So now's the moment of truth. We're gonna start it up once the temperatures warm up. Ideally, this is supposed to turn on, and apparently they're really loud. All right, starting up. Let's go. So the idea here is to start it up and let it run, get to temperature, and watch the fan turn on. So it's still not up to temp, but I turned on the AC and it blasted off right away. The only problem, the 30 amp fuse that we put in, it blew it. So we put a 40 amp, tested a few more times, and it's been going good so far. We're just gonna let it warm up and see how it goes from there. Air conditioning's off, everything's off. It's up to temp, check engine's on because the freaking MAP sensor's off. And the fan automatically turned on, baby. Oh, it turned on, baby. Woo! Yeah, boy. Done deal, baby. Woohoo! Well, that's really it, dude. It's kind of a difficult job, but it's not the worst. You know, luckily I had Daniel on my side to help me out with this because I'm not too good at wiring. So he explained everything. Everything's pretty simple and straightforward. Dude, if you're new to this channel, make sure to like, subscribe. I know it's cliche, but it works because, dude, we got a whole bunch of stuff. This is my daily M3 that we're making a video on today. I'm also building a V10 M3. There's an E39 M5 I got. We're always doing some work on, you know, so make sure you stay tuned, dude. And if you're interested in LS Swap Z, just like you've just seen here, make sure you stay tuned with this guy on Instagram, dude. Follow him right there. Link's gonna be below. Follow this dude. He knows what he's doing because, dude, this stuff is beautiful. And, I mean, he's a great friend of mine. Yes. Anyway, that's gonna cut it for this one, dude. Peace out.